thank you all of you for being here. My name is Jalo. I'm the writer and director of Tales of the Accidental City. Hey. And with me in the room are all the cast members. Yes. We have 10 people sitting around this table, and we've just listened to the first little cut of what this audio drama will sound like. So first of all, how was it? Was it Okay. So I think maybe can everybody introduce themselves? Just your name and your character's name, please.
Let's start from Tana.
Yeah, I'm Tana Kyoko, and I play Sarah Obama.
I am Masi Mutisia, and I play Mrs. Jacinda Atemo.
Nice. I am Isaac Kahiri. I play the heckler, hawker, and one of the street kids.
Ripe bananas, fresh bananas.
Yeah. I am Martina Ayoro. I play Diana Margaret Moby. Moby?
Yes.
Moby.
Moby. I am Margaret Rivera and I play Nina.
Nina. And this was your first time, right? Acting? Maggie is our baby. My name is Lorella Joey. I am Councillor Rose, Priscilla Wanjiko, but you can call me Councillor Rose.
Hey.
Sorry.
Oh, God. My name is Eddie Kimani. I play Louis Njoroge, and I'm glad to have been and to be the part of this amazing cast.
Yeah, fantastic.
My name is Lucy Njeri. I am Gladys, old woman, and Naomi.
Yes.
My name is Melvin Alusa, and I played policeman, CID, and street kid, one of the street kids, 1 or 2.
Masi Nyambura is my name. Or you can call me MC MJ.
Nice.
Esther, the gossiper. Waitress, jealous of other people's money. Those are my roles.
Yes.
100% stupid.
Yeah, you're the one
on your screen.
100% stupid.
This bunny of yours.
So I'd just love to hear from you guys. You know, we've been through this 3-week process together. 2 weeks of intense rehearsals every day for 3 hours on Zoom, which is quite odd. And then finally this week we've been together in the studio, and I'd love to hear anybody's reflections on what it's been like for you.
Can I start?
Yeah.
I think we will not do justice to this amazing piece of work if we do not acknowledge the people who wrote these stories, and that's the writers. I can't remember all the names, but of course there is Kevin Wachiro,
Margaret
Muthe,
and Maimuna Jalo.
So I'd just like us to give them a big round of applause. I mean, we owe a lot to the people who create these stories. We are just vessels that are used to now deliver this story, and without them I don't think we'll have a job. I don't think we'll be able to do this. So I think it'll do great justice to these amazing people who I highly respect, people who create stories, people who form these stories, because it's a big responsibility to us as a society to have people who can let us see ourselves. And I keep on saying that even whenever I'm engaging in matters to do with this craft, we are merely mirrors, be it voice acting or TV acting or film. So we really owe a lot to those people who, put these words together and just come up with these stories. So I just needed to acknowledge that, because without that, we will not have TAC.
It's so true.
A big one for them.
And just to give you a bit of background, so in 2019, 8 writers, including myself, we formed a writing group, and we decided to write stories in the vein of, the Humans of New York series. We wanted to do Humans of Nairobi. And our intention was always to then publish these stories together in an anthology. We're still working towards that. But of course, you know how the publishing industry on our continent works. It is very, very difficult to get independent stories out there. Most publishers are focused on books that they can get into the school curriculum because that's where the money is. So we thought, well, what's another way? What's another way to make sure that African writers can reach audiences, including audiences that don't read? And that's how Tales of the Accidental City was born. Choosing 4 of the stories, adapting them to audio, and finding a way to keep the fire lit as we still try to publish these stories.
Amazing.
Yes.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
Exactly.
Yes.
And saying that, how was the whole Zoom experience?
Oh my God.
Hey, hell. Let me just say, doing Zoom when you're not in Kenya, the struggle is real. Especially, I think, for the first few days, I think the most problem sound nini. Before I realized that it was just using an old laptop. That was the problem. Because you were dialing in from Mombasa and the rest of us were in Nairobi.
I blamed Mombasa for a long time. I was just like, Mombasa, why don't you have internet? I felt so bad. But it was quite the experience. So backstory. The Wi-Fi that I was using was my neighbor's. Thank God. When I think by the time when I saw the requirements, one of the requirements was have good internet connection. I said, God, there's a business job opportunity here. Why should I just say I don't have internet, but I can act I said no. We will figure it out later.
Nice.
I sneaked to my neighbor. I said, I've been using your Wi-Fi. I know I have. But now I really need it. For 2 weeks of constant rehearsals. I need it now.
So that you can officially be using it.
I've been using it. But now I really need to use it. And I thank God that I have a very good neighbor who's like, oh, really? Sure. Come even to my house. So in case you also a busy background, that is not our house. That is not our house. If you saw clothes, you're like, oh, wow, Martina, you're colorful. No. Yeah, so.
That was your neighbor's house.
That was my neighbor's house. Was generous enough. Yeah, and I think it was very interesting seeing people, some of who I knew from the industry and some who I did not know, and different people from different backgrounds. It was just amazing. It was a good feeling. Yeah, and I had to learn also things about Zoom. So the first time I was told the gallery view, I was like, oh, there even views how you can view this thing. I'm like, oh, it's just not my face and your face. Okay. Okay, cool. So I can see everyone. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So it was a good experience. It was interesting.
Yeah. And how about this feeling of, usually when you're preparing a theatre production, because this, was originally meant to be a play that would be staged, you have so much contact with the other actors, the director is there with you, and suddenly you're doing it behind screen. Anybody want to talk to that a bit?
What helped with that is the side chats. So there'd be the rehearsals happening, and then the chat box where we'd be making comments about Isaac's head.
Oh, you can have that.
You were like
about
the chat.
we were talking about
You don't remember the day, the chat box. Melvin, you can't be Flintstone
But I
right
used to
now.
but I used to inbox you. You don't even answer.
Melvin did not know there was a chat area going on.
I was being sliding into people's DMs, especially Act 3 where I'm not there. I was just
It made us bond in a way. So when Sarah would be like, today Jacinda, you are on fire. What? Or Lorella would be, ooh, you guys, what is happening to Nani's head? So it made me feel like I was in an actual rehearsal with actors bonding over everything else other than just art, over life and over silly things.
Yeah.
Or when the CID would make the laugh, the policeman would make the laugh, and everyone would be like, I'm being triggered. I'm being triggered. Yeah, for me, it worked in that sense. So by the time we were coming and meeting physically, it didn't feel like, I didn't have the anxiety for, oh my God, I'm going to meet new people, the butterflies in my stomach. No, it wasn't there. I felt like I already knew everyone.
And interestingly, also, that is actually what happens in a true rehearsal.
Yeah.
When the when there's 3 guys on stage, people are busy giggling off stage and doing what they stuff. You know, it's
That's the chat.
So, now that's the chat.
Yeah.
That's the chat. But also, it's interesting just to see how highly adaptable human beings are.
Oh yes.
But even for me, when I was like, okay, internet, Zoom rehearsals, I was like, how are we going to manage a Zoom rehearsal just in the first place? But the way it just panned out, it ended up being such an amazing, very fulfilling rehearsal. But also just to go back to Martina, an actor never says no to a job.
Thank you. Yeah.
If the requirements are,
Yes.
we hope you have you have a flying license.
fly.
Just say
Yeah, because
There's a time I got a job for a commercial that was meant to be shot in Malaysia, and the guys who were giving me the job I had traveled with them to India before, but at the time my passport had just disappeared.
Disappeared.
Yeah, I was moving house.
6 kids with 2 dogs.
I was cast for the commercial. No passport. But when the job came through, so you got a passport? Yes, I have a passport. You're going to be traveling next week, no problem.
To run around.
Now let me tell you, the day I was told, now today come for the fitting and come with your passport. Now that was the day. Because I woke up by 7, I was at Nyayo House. 7, true story. 7, I was at Nyayo House.
Faith.
Yeah, these guys are waiting for me at Scanad.
Same day.
Yeah. So then, hey, you know, mbona ufiki, I was like, guys, I live in Athi River. There's a
What
track
are
at
problems?
Mlolongo. Barabara kabisa. So we're trying to address whatever. I'm at Nyayo House.
Where you get your passport.
Yeah. By 4 o'clock, the passport was in my hand.
Wow.
I was going to, yeah. So don't say no to a job, but you can't drive. You learn how to drive.
We're Kenyans. That's why you have Eliud Kipchoge. We break norms. It can't be done. We'll show you how you do it.
One thing that has really helped us, it's that I think the first 2 days, I had my questions. I've done countless rehearsals, face-to-face rehearsals. Even when I was accepting the job, I was kept on asking myself, how are we going to do this? Because I never understood the concept of sitting in a group virtually.
Yeah.
And you can do it, a meeting is something else.
Yeah.
But when you're supposed to be internalizing a character, you're supposed to be getting your lines right, you're supposed to be feeding off from the other person.
Yeah.
Virtually, how was that going to happen? And I think I totally agree with you. It's just, I think we're very fortunate we adapted very quickly.
Yeah.
We didn't, I don't think we really struggled. I don't think there's anybody who really struggled to just fit in. I think by the second day, I'd already, being exposed to that just showed the possibilities. And of course, Maimuna, you sort of created a very nice space and environment for us to see the possibility.
That's true.
Because if I'm not wrong, and I'll say it again, I think we are the first pioneers in theatre, virtual theatre, if I'm not wrong. I'm waiting to hear somebody else or another production that is going on. And it's something that maybe you are going to use to market this production, like an angle. Like this is the first local. We've put together something.
First
for you
virtually
guys.
rehearsed play.
If there was a way of documenting the journey.
I mean,
If you have photos that you've taken of the screenshots
Of the screen, I absolutely do.
use
Yes.
that to just show the possibilities of of what we can be done virtually. Yeah. Okay, the other one is still recording. So basically, you're a pioneer. You're a pioneer in opening this path, and I'm sure guys are going to see, because a lot of people in production are waiting to see. Okay, how do we do this? So you've opened a path, I believe, for many other producers, directors, writers in what is possible, what can be done.
Well, we're all just making it up as we go along.
I agree with Eddie. You see, maybe someone has done this before, but this is the thing. We are in the generation where we are agreeing the way the British came and saw Mount Kenya and they decided that they discovered Mount Kenya. Yes, we've discovered this one. We discovered radio theatre and we are owning it and we're the pioneers and it's on record. So that's what you're doing right now.
But I'd also just say that doing this type of theatre, especially during a pandemic, just also because again, if you look at theater, I mean, maybe film, we could talk about virtual stuff and blah blah blah, and it's broadening. I feel like for theater, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like theater, even here in Kenya, was a bit slowly dying. It's not, because compared to probably back in the days, you could have a week of just watching plays back to back to back to back. Before COVID, plays would be like probably after 2-3 months. Then there's a play.
And we've even lost some of our very important theatre spaces.
Yes.
Phoenix Theatre is no more.
And even if
So-
you try to put up productions, the turnout is low.
The turnout is quite low.
It doesn't
So
make sense.
maybe COVID is a blessing in
It
disguise.
is. In
And
many
it
ways,
has just
is.
presented a very
True.
new platform for theatre and technology. Because
Kabisa.
back in the day, you couldn't tell someone at a theatre and technology. People are looking at you like, what do you mean?
Are you out of
Right
your
now,
mind?
here we are having Zoom rehearsals, putting it to do on what platform. It's being viewed by so and so in wherever they are, and blah
All
blah
over the
blah.
world, yeah.
Social media
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it has just been an amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'd like to ask you guys a bit about, because this is really a story about Nairobi, right?
Yeah.
The accidental city is Nairobi.
Yes.
And, that title comes from the fact that Nairobi was never really meant to become a city.
yeah.
It was a depot for goods going to in different directions. And then suddenly more and more people started to settle, and we have this city of more than 3 million people today. And all these different lives colliding within this space, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of how the play and the characters present Nairobi, and also what Nairobi is to you, and whether it is reflected in this piece of work.
Okay. I really, really loved, first, I feel like a fraction of the people who occupy Nairobi were really represented. So the business-minded people and politicians. So there is Diana, despite her not speaking about, she speaks about having a new job. So there's this people who are really just trying to make a living in Nairobi and just being hit, and they're trying to make a living in the right way. And I love that was represented so well in the play. So we have Jacinda, who is a church woman but also loves the bottle. We have Sarah, who is a young lady trying to make it out of the gutters. We have Diana, who has moved from Nyeri into Nairobi because of the promise of the city. And we have Louis, who is really, really just trying to clean up Nairobi and clean up his name at the same time, which is just so frustrating, especially now that we are living in a Twitter world where if your name is Njoroge or a type of Njoroge, you do not have, you're not lucky. So I love that was represented in the play. I'd wish if there will be a Tales of Accidental City too, that there be sex workers, there be Nduthi drivers, and there be people who've just been released from prison. Because I feel like there's that niche that has not yet been, that many people in Nairobi, honestly. But then especially Nairobi was built by sex workers. And if you learn your history, yes, go learn your history. Sex workers built Nairobi, so...
Sex works, man.
It would be, but I really loved how all the characters just, I don't know if it was you guys were meant to do it, but it felt like they were. Remember when you asked me about Jacinda and I told you if Jacinda had money she'd be Louis. It's like they were the Johari window and Jacinda, they were one person in 4 dimensions. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah.
So
It's coming through.
But also the aspect of just to agree with Jacinda. So there's all these people who are represented, but also the dire need for people to talk, not just in this city, but in different cities of the world. People are not talking. I mean, we all know that people don't just talk, and but also not just that, the need to have counseling. Just a simple thing like just moving from Nakuru to Nairobi, you need counseling.
Yeah,
that thing is stressful for anyone in the world. Now, take that basic thing of just like moving to now having this kind of problems. You know, we have so many things that we keep inside. We've got no outlet at all. I wish we had places where we could safe spaces, you know, in the sense where people can just come and talk, and I'm sure even just individually through this COVID season, we have realized how we have got no one to really talk and be, you know, just share this thing and become. Because if I can show my sensitivity to, if I can be vulnerable to you, can I trust you to keep that in that safe space and maybe help me through it, or just help me by just hear me out. So that is needed badly.
Yeah, and also the nature of just venting. I feel like people just want to shout. It's the shouting that happens somewhere in the script, no spoilers, and then afterwards guys are just fine, they're okay. Like I just needed to let that off my chest, and I don't feel like there's space for that, not even on social media. When you just vent, someone will come there is no space to just shout and go like, this is so unfair, and I just want it out of my system for me to move on. So
away with this it is well nonsense.
And there's so much pent up
what is not
anger amongst Kenyans. You just go to, remember what you're talking about yesterday, you go to a shop and you're like, habari, you're like, mbono unanisalimia? Just don't ask me questions right now. You're wondering, I just greeted you, why are you so angry at me?
More counselor.
Or even
script for me.
Let's hear from. Oh, go ahead, Marcia.
That script for me, first of all, there's that part where Diana is so happy because she's coming to start a new life, and Sarah is like
in Nairobi.
Happy in Nairobi. You see, it doesn't make sense to her because of what she went through. And like I said, right from the beginning, right from the very day we started this script, with Councillor Rose, your role helped me not as Esther, but me as Mercy, me as Mama Jaden. It helped me because the trauma. I mean, he was saying losing a kid 5 minutes in a mall, it's like 50 years of your life. And for me, I lost my kid at Nyamakema for very few minutes, but up to date until I met with this script, and Diana spoke. Diana, it's like Diana represented me. She stood in for me. She spoke what I felt in my heart. Even though, because I was imagining, I connected totally with the script. And I was imagining if my kid would, if it was a success for whoever did that, and my kid would have even gone to those syndicates, and I was there, you see, picturing the whole thing, and you like feel like it's a nightmare, and you wake up and scream, and you're like, no, it did not happen. And many people need therapy. We need counselors, and the problem now is in the current society that we have, like, for lack of a better saying, or for lack of a better word, I will say everyone in Nairobi is mad. We are all sick. It's true. We are all sick.
It's the percentage that matters.
We were just saying
so we've been swallowed already.
We are all sick.
We're a swallowed case.
Because there's something we were discussing, and out of nowhere he was telling me, have you ever thought of going for counseling? And I was, does it need counseling? To start with. And he was like, it's not something small that brings down a building. A bomb is a very small thing, but it brings down the whole of a very big building. So that's why I'm saying everybody in Nairobi is sick, because you are fighting with the hawkers, you are fighting with the kanjos, you are fighting with jam, you are fighting with yourself, with your husband, with your boss, everybody.
And there's very little space in which to express that frustration
Yes.
and feel it, right? Councillor Rose, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, you did mention that you might become a councillor.
I did because I think for me also it's kind of made me live in that role of Councillor Rose and become a very good listener. I'm even like, as I was researching and really going through my script and trying to internalize the character, I realized, wow, I need a Rose myself. So then you realize that there are simple things like these breathing exercises that you just feel it from your feet all the way. So I was like, as I was researching, I'd do them myself, and I just feel like, wow, that load is gone. And just listening more to people, and not avoid judging people also. And maybe I might I just might end up in the therapy space.
vulnerable moment.
Have plans.
No, seriously, because it even probed me now to go and look at Louis, not as Louis, but as Eddie. And so I bumped into one of his talks, and, he said, some of us, you see us and we walk around, and if only the way we look is what, like we presented, our problems were the way we look. As I look so well dressed, I look well composed, I look like I have everything, well put together, until I meet this character, Rose, until I meet Jacinda, and then you realize, wow, man, like I'm all these things, but you just try put yourself together, and So I think for me, it's personally, it's really changed my perspective of so many things, and just do not comment too much, do not judge people, listen a lot more, breathe when you can, and just let it shake it off, just let things breathe.
But I'd love to hear from you, Eddie, because you are a mental health campaigner, right? Can you tell us a bit about that, and in relation to the play?
I think we've touched on that already with what he has talked about, us not having outlets to talk. And I think I said this in one of the engagements we had online, where I'm really grateful that we're having such a production, because it's going to encourage people to understand that therapy, you don't have to be sick to go for therapy. You don't, by the way, you don't need to have a mental health problems to go and see therapy. The same way you take your car to a garage because it's for service and there's no problem. The same way we should be taking our minds to that professional, because our professional, what he does for you is just to give you that listening space, a safe space, non-judgmental, and he helps you to just get those things that Melvin has said, we soak in so much. A professional therapist will help you let it all out. You don't have to be sick. That's one of the biggest takeaways for me for this production. I've not been in a production and I think there's a production that can even put in a mental health festival. Because anger management, people think it's only for people who are angry. You don't have to be an angry person or violent. You might just want to know, how do I manage this side or these emotions? And again, from a man point of view, it's also important, and I felt that I carried a responsibility also to show that also men, it's good to go for therapy. Because again, men, we've not been very good with our vulnerability, so we cushion things. When things come to burst, you either go and look for the highest window and jump out, or look for the fastest car and jump in front of it. So this should be a way of telling the public that it's good to talk. Men, and I read this from somewhere very credible, that men are very comfortable. And I'm being very honest about this men conversation. It's a bit uncomfortable sometimes. But men apparently are comfortable going for a prostate test than going to a therapist. It's a research that was done and just shows you how bad things are. So you tell a man that he go and see a therapist, and you mad, or it'll bring out their weakness. So what Louis does for me in this space, I would like Louis to be seen as the person who would help another man somewhere understand, even if you've been forced to go for that therapy because there is law to the things that we do in life, it's still an avenue you can use to go and deal with that, with your whatever you're going through. And it's not really a jail sentence. You're going to see a professional who will help you deal with your emotion, understand how you embrace your emotions, how to be vulnerable and make it your ally as opposed to your enemy, failing. Louis feels also that he has failed. And that also affects his mental. Remember, he comes from a background of a silver spoon in his mouth. He thinks everything, he's entitled to things. But this session makes him understand what is happening on the ground. Because he's never had an environment where he comes and meets a Diana or a Sarah or meet a Jacinda who challenges him. Again, Louis was also taken aback by being challenged by a lady. So he had also to deal with that. But at some point we connected, because all these things that are affecting us are also affecting me from where I sit in my cottage and where you sit in an old Volvo. And maybe lastly is to also to answer your question about how this whole story works for the city, is that Nairobi is a place where you can make it. And the person who represents this to me in this story is, and we don't talk much about him, is Bolt.
Yeah.
If you think about Bolt inspiring the Sarahs, the other people in that corner, and every time I'm walking the streets, I look at those groups. You know, those mothers who sell fruit, they're always in groups, and you can tell this is like a clique. So there's that one person who tells you, you know what, we will make it. Okay, bad luck, he was hit by that car running for 50 bob. But he inspired Sarah, and you could tell by what Sarah saw in Bolt is where I would like people who come to Nairobi to believe you can make it despite all these things that we are going through. Unaweza make it. So those are the two elements I would look at, and Bolt represents that. It's tough. Everybody is mad. We are fighting ourselves. We are fighting each other, but there is always there's always opportunities for making your mark where you are in Nairobi City.
Is that the magic of these are big African cities? Because for me, this is a tale of Nairobi, but it could be Lagos, it could be Dakar, it could be Joburg.
Replicate it to the others.
Because these are all cosmopolitan places where people come to see if they can make their dreams come true. You know? And yet at the same time, the play does raise issues around the kind of massive social injustices that exist in African cities, that you do have people living in, whether you call it a mansion or cottage, and you have other people that when it rains, the house floods and their children drown in their own houses. And I really wanted to not criticize our city. You know, for me, Nairobi is a wonderful city. I don't think I could live anywhere else, not right now anyway. But at the same time, there are a lot of social issues that we close our eyes to because we have a certain amount of privilege.
So for you, it's to highlight and bring to the fore, this is what we have. There is the house with pools, there is the guy who lives in the cottage. And that's what we're presenting.
We present, and also that a lot of people with a lot of money got it illegally. Let's just put it that way. True. And then they flaunt it in everybody's face in the sense that you're driving in your Range Rover and why? Just because you're in that car, it means you cannot see what is happening outside around you. You can put up your windows, put on your air conditioner, and therefore that street kid that is 7 years old and is selling peanuts matters nothing to you, even though you're a politician and it's your responsibility to do something about this. You know, for me, it angers me so much, and I've seen it in any African city, the way the political elite really do not care about the majority, and I wanted that also to come out. And from you guys who are Nairobians, what are some of the frustrations you feel about this city? What are some of the changes that you would like to see?
So there's it's a
good.
I would like for it to be simpler to do business.
Simpler to do business.
Like it's you die. You come to Nairobi. You have to be in Nairobi to make money, I think. But then it's really hard to make this money the right way.
You've seen this meme going around. Is it meme or meme?
Meme.
Of the water refilling. I don't know who has seen that water refilling.
The lady.
A list of what you need to pay.
Compliance and the cost is just
you see that list like this, you give up. So you can imagine.
And yet they keep talking about, young people need to be entrepreneurs.
Creating an environment.
You know, another thing that really pains me is now that you've touched on young people they are all the way from Mushago. They are coming to Nairobi to explore, to look for jobs, and the first job opportunity that you meet with, 10 years experience. Where am I getting 10 years experience? And then you come and tell us, and then when you walk into these offices, like sorry, it might be a bit sensitive. You walk into these offices and the people that you meet, and you're being told that Kenya is for the young people. You're looking for I'm looking for Jacinda, I'm looking for Diana, but I am meeting with
Eddie.
Louis' father. Louis' father. You see? Because I need 10 years experience. Where am I getting 10 years experience?
You know something that has actually there's something happening in this country right now. When this so all this useless governance that we've been having, and people just grabbing all those things has been happening, And silently, we have been getting tired and tired and tired. But I think just last week, part one, what happened with Dennis Onkari when the exposure of COVID money hit home.
Explain what that is.
There's so Dennis Onkari is an investigative journalist who did some investigation on how the money that came from WHO was meant to
The COVID-19 billionaires.
the COVID-19, the money that came, the grant that was given to the Kenyan government, other governments also have in Africa, how that money was meant to help the common mwananchi, the common citizen, and how the entire amount, $430 million to be precise, how that money ended up in a few pockets. And the expose is there, you can actually see the families and the people who got that money. They're not even more than 10. So Kenyans have gotten to a point where now we are absolutely, completely fed up. The disparity between the rich and the poor is so much.
big.
It's impossible. It's becoming tighter and more impossible to just run a simple business. While these guys in their big cars or because you think like even the guys, when you see the guys who are stealing this money, they're not people who need to steal. These guys have such huge investments for their like up to the 20th generation. They'll be fine. So you ask yourself, if you can chew money meant to help someone that is dying, and you have so much. Is it because you need the money, or is it because it's a game, or you're sick in your head? Are you sick in your head? So there's a silent. I think maybe even in other African countries. Because my friend was telling me in Nigeria, he said, you guys have been you've lost for $30 million. That's nothing. In Nigeria, we have lost almost
billions
dollars
over the years, billions and billions.
But it's so sad that even in connection to what Melvin is saying, the PPEs, we are given actual things, not even money. These are masks. These give them to the people. They were shipped out. They found their way out. So how, man? And it really also pains the same way Maimuna is saying that these guys drive with their windows up and they don't really care what happens around them. I mean, someone probably a friend of mine used to tell me that it's interesting how politicians and leaders think in Kenya, not only Kenya but also African countries, that they get so much comfort once they have a house with a compound, and so they're shielded from everything else that happens around them. The rest of us are alone.
And I don't know if this comes from historically when the British came here, or the French, depending on where you are, or the Germans, whoever it may be. Political office, when you were appointed by this colonial administration to help them administer, it was almost the only way that you could access wealth. So people went into politics not because of ideology, but because of money. Right from the beginning. And then how do we change that mindset today? Because people don't go into politics to serve people. Most politicians do not have a manifesto, so it's all about bribing during election times. And once you are in there, eating as much as you can as quickly as possible, because you will not be there for long, So it's a massive system change that has to happen. And, at the end of the play, when Sarah says, this Nairobi will swallow us up. But actually before that, Jacinda asks, where should we park our anger? And Louis says, some of us are too tired to be angry. And then Diana says, and some of us are too poor and hungry to be angry. And in the end, then where's this change going to come from? Councillor Rose says, then we don't need anger, what we need is courage. Do you see in Nairobi and in the rest of Kenya, a population that's not too hungry, not too angry, not too tired, but is ready to be courageous, to change things?
Those are red flags already. The ones. Just go ahead.
I love the question you asked at first, and one of the things that keeps on just shouting in my head right now is because there is no justice in Kenya or equality or anything like that, is because the justice system in itself, the body that should ensure that there should be justice in Kenya, is warped. It's already corrupt. So how on earth are we supposed to have justice in Kenya? For heaven's sakes, we voted in ICC suspects. How on earth are we supposed to be running a straightforward country? So where I think right now everyone is just looking out for themselves to say the truth. In Mathare, I think 2-3 months ago, cases of police brutality skyrocketed, and they had the guts to say that these people were killed by COVID. And it had to take people who saw what the police had done to carry the bodies to the police station screaming, "Sio COVID ni polisi," which means it's not COVID, it's the police who are killing a 13-year-old boy. For heaven's sake, if we've gotten to a place where a kid can be killed and there's no justice, what are people supposed to do? So I cannot tell the atmosphere right now. I can't tell if people are tired or angry or they've given up. But what I feel like it's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's going to disrupt something. I just hope that it's going to be good, because it's starting to boil from now the poor and the middle class. Because even the middle class, I think they're coming to a place where they realize, hey, I am actually in a furnished jail. I am just in a good jail.
And I'm also just one hospital bill away from going
Exactly.
from middle class
One job
back to
away.
poverty.
And it's beginning to catch up with the middle class people. So I don't know how long it'll take, but I just feel like it's
Change will come.
But also, I would say that I think we are also to a point where we have been stretched far too much with the hunger, the anger, the poverty, the lies, the deception that are just right in our faces. These days, you watch news and someone is like, I mean, it's amazing how in my country I can watch news and the headline is how the government has eaten billions. I have not even seen a million.
There was a month,
you know,
that was the headline
and
every day.
It's just billions and billions, and you wonder, how are we in debt, and how are billions just circulating in this country, and how is it that we are poor? How is it that we're still third world and billions are just traveling somewhere along this country? I think we've been far too stretched to a point where we just, this day someone tells you, the government is trying to like ni kawaida. It's normal. What's new? What's new in this
But
country?
I feel
And also, sorry, and also again, right now, like I know even my family, people are like, me 2022, I'm not voting, because that's where we are. We don't know who we are voting for. What are we voting for? We had hopes. We said we don't want the old people ruling us anymore. Gone are the days of Kinamoi and blah blah blah. These guys were tyrants, but tyrants, we survived through tyranny. And we said we want young people, and we got the young people, and now we're twice as deep in what we thought we were going to be rescued out from. We've gotten to a point where we don't even want to vote, you know, and it's sad. I remember we just had an earlier conversation with Kina Lorella, but that was just a bit different. But it gets to a point whereby someone like me who has no children, I don't know if I want to have children in Kenya and raise them and say that I see a future for my child. Yeah, if she can say that,
like what happens to Sarah, right?
Yeah,
she gives away her child. She says,
because
how can I look at my child knowing that I can not offer this child a better life than myself?
Even look at our politicians. You will not find their kids schooling in Kenya. They're all shipped off. They all have assets somewhere else, because you don't know how you can survive in a country whereby you do not know if the next day we will be told, okay, now you've been sold off to your debtors. Now we are not. So I don't.
You wanted to say something, Lucy?
Yes, I feel as so much as you say we've been stretched, and now we're almost reaching the limit, and people will be bolder and will be angry enough to just stand up for themselves and to try out these political positions for the right reasons. I hope so.
Really though?
Yes,
I feel like I do agree
Maybe.
with her. I feel like we will, because for the longest time we felt like our enemy was tribalism. But no, I feel
It's
that
not.
only
It's not.
two tribes. It's the unjust and the just. It's
And
the
the
rich and the poor. It's not.
I think come. Let me just make. I have to say this. I think come 2022. What's going to happen in 2022?
You'll run
Our
for
elections.
presidency.
No.
Hey.
Thank you for the faith. In 2022, if a candidate will have come up where the citizenry will be behind this candidate, who will be the alternative to the ruling elite, and of course, you know, like now, we know that the election, there's a high possibility, even now as you're sitting here, is being rigged.
Yes.
So
You already have our
if there's a
It
proper,
has already been rigged.
if now because of the of the voter
Tired.
fatigue and whatever, and we rally behind this one person,
Yeah.
and the election is rigged, that may be the tipping point. Because if this person is strong enough to stand up to the system and tell them, you know what, actually you'll give me my victory, and these guys of course want to put up their guy to continue with this nonsense, that is when now the citizenry will say enough is enough.
Well, let's see what will happen in 2022.
Let's pray for brighter
So
days.
unfortunately, we really have to wrap this up. I just want each one of you will go round
Yeah.
to start your sentence with "My Nairobi is," and it can be what your Nairobi is today or what you dream for your Nairobi to be. Yeah, and just one sentence. And as you're thinking about that, let me give you a bit of time. I want to hear from our youngest member here, Maggie, because this was, as we were saying, your first experience. Can you give us a few words about what it was like, what you will take away from it?
Actually, when I studied at theatre, I'm actually shy. I don't speak in front of people. But now I'm confident I can speak in front of people, even that one.
Pointing at Melvin in case you don't know.
That one, Melvin.
Actually, when I go back there, that teacher is not going to be like, you come here, He's actually so strict, and all the time he's looking at me because I'm so small. I'm actually the smallest and the shortest and the quietest.
But now you feel more confident?
Yeah. And when I go back there, I'm going to rock that.
Yes, thank you. So very, very quickly, Lorella, what is your Nairobi? My Nairobi is... Whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Nairobi is amazing. In the future. Yeah. In the future, not now.
Eddie?
My Nairobi is wow. My Nairobi is worth fighting for.
Amen. Lucy, now you're on the spot after that depth.
My Nairobi is just and sane.
Yeah.
Just and
That's
sane.
true.
My Nairobi is resilient.
Wow. My Nairobi, goodness. Wow. I'm going to talk about the future. My Nairobi is beautiful. As a city, when you go around it, it's beautiful. So the future, my Nairobi is truly going to be beautiful.
Nice one.
Nice.
I would say my Nairobi is a Nairobi that belongs to everyone that lives here.
My Nairobi is compassionate.
Wow.
My Nairobi is safe for women and children.
I'll speak in the sense of the future. My Nairobi is no more a curse.
No more Akas.
It's a blessing.
I will speak in the past, present, and future. My Nairobi is positively African.
And finally you.
Was I supposed to speak?
Yes.
What is Nairobi to you?
You are the future
But
of
you can
this
dance
city.
also.
Yeah. You're the youngest one here.
Yeah, I'll say my Nairobi will be great.
Well, guys, I just want to say it's been such a privilege to have been working with you for the last 3 weeks. It's been absolutely magical. Thank you for trusting me in this process and for really giving your all. Everyone was on time to every rehearsal. Everyone gave. People were meeting separately on Zoom to have their own rehearsals, and it's always such a blessing because a production like this does not happen without you guys, the cast. Also here in the room we have Sarah Malia, who's our production coordinator. We have Kip as well, who's the producer. And we can't forget Jackie, who is in the UK, but actually on the other side of this screen, in the control room, every day on Zoom, was listening in, watching what is happening, so that she can do the absolutely best sound edit possible. So thank you. And as you say, we're all what? Positively African.
Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Awesome.